Due to being the leader among the fallen angels, the Jewish Book of Enoch commands its readers to ascribe all sin to him. His description has varied throughout history, with him originally being one of heaven's angels, a gloriously beautiful man with wings on his back. However, when he was cast down to earth and became fallen, his beauty became corrupted, in turn taking on a demonic appearance. Once cast down to earth, he became a leader of the Grigori, a group of angels who married mortal women and produced a line of monstrous children. He then began teaching evil to humans, teaching mankind of warfare and the art of deception, before finally teaching us about witchcraft. Now, Azazel has had a big screen appearance in the 1998 crime drama Fallen, which follows homicide detective John Hobbs, who witnesses the execution of serial killer Edgar Reese. However, soon after the execution, the killings begin happening again. In the movie, Azazel evilly outwits Denzel Washington's character, with it being revealed that Azazel's true power is being able to jump from house to house with a passing touch. Coming in at number 4, we have Beelzebub. Beelzebub is a Semitic deity that was worshipped in the Philistine city of Ekron. He is often linked with Satan by Christians. In demonology, he is one of the 7 princes of the underworld. In Christian writings, the name Beelzebub appears as an alternate name to Satan, and like I said, is commonly described as a placed higher in the underworld's hierarchy. According to occultist Johannes Wierus, Beelzebub is the chief lieutenant of Lucifer, the emperor of the underworld, and presides over the Order of the Fly. Now, throughout history, there have been confirmed reports of Beelzebub here on Earth, with one of the last hailing from France. It began in the early 1600s when a young nun called Madeleine began having fits, shouting obscenities and making claims she had engaged in lewd sexual acts with demons and witches. It was ultimately decided that she was possessed by none other than Satan himself, aka Beelzebub. The possession only worsened from there, with them being forced to bring in Sebastian Micheli, the local Grand Inquisitor, to aid in an exorcism. Coming in at number 3, we have Paimon from Hereditary. Paimon is a spirit named in the Lesser Key of Solomon and is one of the kings of Kinistan, more obedient to Lucifer than most others, and has 200 legions of demons under his rule. He is said to have a great voice and roars as soon as he comes, speaking in this manner for a while, until the conjurer compels him, and then he answers the questions he has been asked. Paimon teaches all arts, philosophy and sciences, and secret things. He can reveal all mysteries of the earth, wind and water, what the mind is, and everything in between. However, although what he may offer is knowledge, this does not make him good. His depiction in the Ari Aster movie Hereditary should have taught us this. He is a duplicitous demon and perhaps one of the most devastating entities found in modern horror. In Hereditary, Paimon is summoned as a cult ritual by the deceased mother of Annie, played by Toni Collette, who is then forced to protect her family from Paimon's persuasions. The evil demon first targets the daughter Charlie before going after the son Peter, and of course Paimon invades the body. He commits unspeakable horrors that horror cinema hasn't been blessed with in a very, very long time. Coming in at number 2, the Cenobites, Hellraiser. To quote the Hell Priest Pinhead, explorers in the furthest regions of experience, demons to some, angels to others. And that is the perfect way to describe the Cenobites from the works of Clive Barker. The Cenobites are extra-dimensional beings who appear in Barker's works such as the Hellbound Heart, the Scarlet Gospels, and the 9 Hellraiser movies. It is said that they can only reach Earth's reality through a schism in time and space, which is opened and closed using certain unearthly artifacts, one of course being the puzzle box called the Lament Configuration. To quote Clive Barker in the Hellbound Heart, why then was he so distressed to set eyes upon them? Was it the scars that covered every inch of their bodies, the flesh cosmetically punctured and sliced and infibulated, then dusted down with ash? Was it the smell of vanilla they brought with them, the sweetness of which did little to disguise the stench beneath? Or was it as the light grew and he scanned them more closely, he saw nothing of joy or even humanity in their maimed faces, only desperation and an appetite that made his bowels ache to be voided? The Cenobites all have horrific mutilations and or body piercings, and wear fetishistic black leather that often resembles butchery garments or religious vestments. Now, aside from their grotesque physical depictions, the Cenobites are terrifyingly potent. They come from a disturbing labyrinth where sadomasochism and torture rule. Their ultimate goal is to drag the victims who open the special puzzle box back to their violent netherworld to suffer endless torture. And finally, coming in at number 1, we have Pazuzu, the Exorcist. In ancient Mesopotamian religion, Pazuzu was the king of the demons of the wind, brother of Humbaba and son of the god Hambi. He also represented the southwestern wind, the bearer of storms and drought. Now, although Pazuzu is himself considered to be an evil spirit, he drives and frightens away other evil spirits, therefore protecting humans against plagues and misfortunes. However, don't get your hopes up because this dude is straight up evil. He was, of course, the evil spirit that possessed a young Regan MacNeil in the 1971 novel The Exorcist, as well as the subsequent movie. In the movie, Pazuzu is both named as the demon antagonist of Regan and the unwitting helper of Father Philip Lamont, as he seeks to free Regan from the demon's grip. It should be said that no cinematic demon has ever been more potent or terrifying than that of Pazuzu, aside from maybe the red tongue-licking demon in Insidious. Not a fan of that one, not a fan at all. Now in The Exorcist, Pazuzu finds its way to the US after being discovered during an archaeological dig in the Middle East. There it infiltrates the body of Regan, with the intention of subsuming her soul. Lovely stuff, isn't it? Pazuzu in turn makes Regan commit some unspeakable acts, such as stabbing herself with a crucifix in areas that we won't mention here, and of course attacking her own mother, before aggressively vomiting up green pea soup. And then of course the infamous scene of Regan spinning her head 180 degrees. What a lovely sight. This 1973 Best Picture winner is still one of the highest grossing films ever made. However, saying that, it is best to steer clear of Pazuzu. There's no need to invoke him, especially not in the middle of the night in front of your mirror. Just cover that thing with a sheet.
Almighty Lord, Word of God the Father, Jesus Christ, God and Lord of all creation, gave to your holy apostles the power to tramp underfoot serpents and scorpions.
Coming in at number 5, we've got Abezethibou. Fallen angels tend to have pretty wild names, so we'll kick off with a good one. Abezethibou, Abezethibou, Abezethibou. Keep saying it, I swear nothing bad will happen. While some angels fall from heaven and just chill in the sacrilege paradise that is hell, some have higher hopes for sure. Good old Abezethibou is one of those with goals, aspirations, a day planner fully loaded with terrible tasks. After following Beelzebub in a grand exit from the Holy Land, he became quite an important demon in hell. Most hell dwellers choose to follow a certain demon or become part of a legion of some sort. This fallen angel has control over all sorts of imprisoned souls. Some say that this charge is both a privilege and a burden though, but I would imagine the same is true of all sorts of tasks in hell. There's much more to this demon though. He doesn't just remain in hell for all of eternity. In fact, there's a wild story about what Abezethibou got up to above ground. After falling from heaven, he roamed about Egypt, eventually causing a pharaoh's heart to harden. This act of evil inspired the pharaoh to pursue the fleeing Israelites, which ended poorly to say the least. This pursuit resulted in the pharaoh's army being crushed by the Red Sea. Abezethibou himself was imprisoned in a pillar of water and forced to uphold a pillar of air until a temple's completion. That has to do terrible things to one's mind, so I'm sure whenever this demon escapes, he'll be ready to wreak some vengeful havoc. You'll be able to recognize this angel turned demon rather quickly too. He has 2 differently colored wings. One is bright red. So if you ever come across an entity with 2 different colored wings, one being red, you can probably be pretty sure, reasonably so, that it is Abezethibou. Be careful and watch yourself, as he is the demon of pride, known to lead people astray. Coming in number 4, we've got Furfur. Don't be fooled by the somewhat silly name on this one. Furfur is to be feared. A great Earl of Hell, he commands 29 legions of demons that can compel all sorts of atrocities to happen. Take in that his name could be a corruption of the Latin word furcifer, which means scoundrel. We love a good scoundrel around here, but be aware that when dealing with one face to face, he will almost always come away as the loser. He's been depicted as all sorts of different things, from an angel to a fox to a winged hart, which is essentially an older species of deer, plus wings of course. In those forms, Furfur has been known to trick and mislead people as he is a pathological liar. The imagery of a tricky fox or deer has been used in myths and stories all across the world. Apparently, if you compel Furfur into a magical triangle though, he will revert to his true form and speak only the truth. Whether or not you want his scratchy demonic voice telling you truths is a matter of contention though. Trickery and shapeshifting are only the beginning of this entity's power. Furfur can force love between a man and woman, which often does not result in desirable outcomes. The actual method Furfur employs to make this false love happen is up in the air, but maybe double check your intentions if you find yourself falling in love in the woods. Furfur can also whip up destructive inclement weather, enormous cracks of lightning, tremendously loud thunder, and storms with rain and wind that put monsoons to shame are all under his control. So don't make him mad lest you end up struck by lightning or drowned in torrential rainfall. If you summon this fallen angel, he may impart some knowledge upon you. Often this knowledge is of divine things and meant to instill happiness. So even though he is known as a demon, he's not all that bad. There are benefits to having him around if you can manage to avoid these storms and potential forced love. Coming in at number 2, we've got Andras. Now we're getting into some hardcore ones. Sure, we started with some fallen angels who might have a violent tendency or two or compel people to act in ways that contradict their morals, but that's all just part of life, right? Andras is straight up evil. He is powerful, deadly evil. The Grand Marquis of Hell, 63rd of the 72 Spirits of Solomon, and commanding 30 legions of demons. Boom. If Andras likes somebody, he teaches them to kill their enemies, masters, and servants. Yeah, all 3 categories. He is a bringer of bloodbath and brings them often. Nobody escapes when he's around. To make matters worse, he also gets a kick out of creating bad situations. Sowing discord among people is a chief interest, and trouble seems to follow him wherever he goes. It's hard to avoid him too, as he does take many forms and can really mess up your day if you're not ready. See, usually magicians look to summon Andras in order to gain some of his power, but he's not easily handled. He will often kill the very people who summoned him if they're not prepared for his arrival. Then he's just free to roam around with his owl head and crazy sword, murdering to his heart's content. Not great. Usually he looks sort of human, with an owl or raven head riding a dark wolf. Very majestic, very cool, very dangerous. Seriously, watch yourself if you even catch a whiff of Andras activity. Coming in at number 5, we've got Danny / Malfador. Well, we'll kick it off pretty simple with a throwback to the horror movies of the 80s. Witchboard is a Ouija-themed romp through the mean streets of California, ranging from house parties to construction sites to an ever-infamous lake sequence. It's pretty cheesy, but there are definitely some good bits if you're into 80s horror. We kick off the introduction to evil presences with a good old-fashioned group session. While her boyfriend is off getting drunk, Linda gets her hands on her ex's Ouija board and summons a presence in front of a crowd, and that is not a euphemism. The partygoers meet Danny, a young boy who died a tragic death and is now communicating with everyone through the board. Things get heated between Linda's current and ex-boyfriends, which results in Danny slashing the tires of a car. Whoops. Danny's still a good kid though. The next day, Linda decides to call up Danny again and see how he's doing, but this time she brings out the board all alone without any guidance. Bad call, as the presence that shows up says he's Danny but is hiding his true identity. Always a bad sign. The presence helps Linda find her engagement ring and never gets dismissed. This means it can stick around and do what it wants, wherever it wants, whenever it wants. And what it wants is to kill any and everyone who might get in its way. See, this presence that claimed to be Danny on the second day was actually that of Carlos Malfador, an evil spirit. The man was an axe murderer in life, gunned down by police while trying to escape capture. As it turns out, he lived in Linda's house way back before she moved in. He'd been waiting for an opportunity to possess someone for ages, and this was the perfect time. Using progressive entrapment, he slowly but surely works towards being able to take over Linda and enter back into the living world. This results in plenty of death and destruction along the way, including almost getting her boyfriend arrested for the murders. So while you're using a Ouija board, do some research about where you're using it. If a bunch of nasty stuff occurred at your location, don't do it. Also keep an eye out for demons pretending to be other people. That one's a little harder to make sure of though. Coming in at number 4, we've got Kelly. This name doesn't sound so bad, but if you like your head to remain upon your shoulders, avoid it at all costs. Seriously though, this demon is sending out all of the warning signals possible, so if you end up dead, it really is your fault. She first showed up when a young lad was trying out Ouija with his older brother and cousin. They set up the board, got things ready to rock, and began to ask questions. With the lights out and candles lit, things were about to get spooky. And spooky things got. The young lad had a doll with him at the time, and this doll went by the name of Kelly. Uh-oh. Of course, it was good to have such a figure for comfort while doing something so potentially scary. So when the planchette started moving, he reached for his doll. However, Kelly was missing in action. Panicked, the kid looked back to the board and saw that it was spelling something. K-E-L-L-Y. Oh my goodness. Soon after, the ritual ended and the boys were considerably shaken. The youngest one looked frantically for his doll, but to no avail. However, later she was found, without her head. Someone or something had taken the doll, popped its dome off, and hidden the pieces away. If you ask me, this is a kind of warning, a sign of things to come. The next time you try to use a Ouija board around here, the demon might spell your name. And then your head might go missing. Not the kind of injury that's easy to recover from, yeah? Coming in at number 3, we've got Doris. Back to some movie magic for a moment, Doris is the exceptionally upsetting demon featured in Blumhouse's Ouija series. She turned out to be the main villain in the first one, and then the prequel explores her tragic backstory. Demons with sad stories are always the worst, eh? You want to sympathize with them, but then they're out here trying to kill everyone and singing sad songs. It's a whole mess. Doris had her mouth sewed shut by her mother to prevent evil spirits and voices from taking over, and eventually passed on, becoming one of these presences summoned by the board. Once she became a demon, Doris possessed many people. Anyone foolish enough to summon her using a board would be taken over and killed in horrific ways. Doris will make people hang from Christmas lights by their own doing, or put their heads through porcelain sinks. That's gotta hurt, and there's no coming back from that kind of head trauma. There's some swimming pool antics, some stitch-mouthed ghost antics, the whole 9 yards. Even though Doris was just a girl, as a demon she has a whole lot of anger and terror to express. And what better way to express your demonic urges than through a killing spree? Sounds like fun. So if you'd like to keep your bathroom pristine and your head unmunched, stay away from that Ouija board. Coming in at number 2, we've got Shush. This one comes from another supposedly true tale where average folks messed with a board and paid the price. Everyone knows how embarrassing it can be to be shushed, especially by a stranger. So what about a paranormal stranger? One with the potential to shut you up for good? It doesn't sound like a whole lot of fun if I'm being totally honest, but that's exactly what happened here. 2 friends decided to take a swing at some Ouija board antics and plopped one down on their table. They tried for a little while to contact any sort of presence, but came up short. After asking a few more questions, they returned to the top, asking questions like, is there anyone here that would like to communicate with us? This apparently was the last straw, as the planchette immediately moved to no. Thinking this was their chance to finally talk with someone from the other side, they pushed further, asking more questions. But the presence did not appreciate this and used the planchette to spell out S-H-U-S-H. Shush. Holy moly, it just wanted some peace and quiet. After this, the room felt considerably colder and the pals didn't want to see what would happen if they didn't follow the presence's instructions. Something tells me it wouldn't have been pleasant. I could see a demon stealing someone's voice or permanently sealing their mouth for not being quiet when told. So who wants to play the quiet game? I'll start. Coming at number 1, we've got Zozo. Now, you know we couldn't do a Ouija demon list without including one of the newest and most prolific entries into the ghostly pop culture oeuvre. Zozo seemingly hasn't been around that long, and his popularity is largely attributed to internet culture gassing him up. There might be brief mentions of this demon in assorted old compendiums and grimoires, but nothing concrete, and the old writings don't really connect him to Ouija boards or possession either. But Zozo is a famous demon now, and those tend to do exactly what people expect them to do. The more we discuss him, the stronger and more bold he grows. Many who have encountered this demon feel its presence for years after the fact, regardless of whether they closed the session or not. One tale recounts a man almost seeing his drown in the bathtub, attacked by Zozo. Others say that the demon acts like a poltergeist, ruining their homes and injuring them frequently. If your planchette moves from Z to O to Z to O, yes, I am Canadian, say goodbye and throw it in a fire. nothing good will come from any further interaction. Coming in at number 5, we've got Yaldabaoth. This one's a super big Persona 5 spoiler, so if you haven't played it yet or are still waiting for the Switch version, sorry, maybe skip to the next number. The Holy Grail, the God of Control, the fake Igor. This is the absolute biggest bad in Persona 5. After the Phantom Thieves defeat all of the other more publicly menacing enemies and assume it'll be smooth sailing to the end, this guy shows up to ruin everything. And he totally does ruin everything. As the manifestation of humanity's wish for order and control, this mecha angel can control people's desires and their cognition of the world around them. He considers himself a god above all other beings. Talk about a superiority complex. As such, he is also representative of the 7 deadly sins: lust, gluttony, greed, sloth, wrath, envy, pride, you name it. He has the power to destroy the world through a hard reset of everything, or by enslaving humanity through a false reality. Although he didn't begin with all that power. Yaldabaoth holds the human world in the palm of his hand, and is made more powerful by the will of humans as a whole. The more people that wish for a strong leader and to be told what to do, the more mighty he becomes. Upon gaining sentience, he saw how corrupt society was and decided that humans should be met with ruin. This is a little bit paradoxical though, because he does have the ability to influence the will of the public. As such, he could steer them in a better direction, but instead allows them to continue on the same path in order to ensure his rule over the world. All this power makes him arrogant, believing that he is truly the ultimate being. That kind of arrogance makes me suspect that he would destroy the whole world on a whim, and he would have got away with it too if it weren't for those meddling thieves. Filling out our number 2 spot, we've got the Icon of Sin. Somebody called Doom Guy, we need a little help. The final boss in Doom 2, Hell on Earth, this Baphomet-headed demon spawner could end our world in a heartbeat. In fact, it already did in Doom 2. Just because it was killed in the end doesn't mean the world isn't still blasted to smithereens. There's no taking back that kind of worldwide collapse. The Earth is already ruined by the time our heroic space marine shows up to kick ass and chew bubblegum. Wait, no, that's the wrong FPS. Getting back to how this giant robo-devil would destroy the world, it literally infinitely spawns demons from hell into our world. How does it do this? Well, in the Doom universe, humans have come up with some pretty ingenious teleportation technology. However, as teleportation tech is apt to do, it malfunctions and opens a portal to hell on Mars. We are led to believe that this problem only exists on Mars in the first game, but that would be too convenient, wouldn't it? In Doom 2, more portals open on Earth, and the Icon of Sin gets to chill in the bowels of hell and fire demon after demon through these portals to cause humans a whole lot of trouble. And if we're being real, nobody on Earth even comes close to the demon-slaying capabilities of the fictional Doom Guy. So if these portals open, and if this metal-headed brain demon decides to spawn a bunch of Hellions in the city streets, it's all over. And filling out our number 1 spot, we have the Saint of Killers from Preacher. Of all the demons on this list, only one has successfully killed both Satan and God. Yes, I did say a demon killed God. That deity-ending demon is the Saint of Killers from Preacher. Once a bloodthirsty Confederate soldier known as the Butcher of Gettysburg, the Saint of Killers decided to settle down with a woman and find peace. Still a man at this point, he fell in love, had a family, and was happy. Sadly, he lived in a time where medicine was scarce and happy endings even scarcer. Disease took its toll, and his family died when he was out looking for a cure. Upon finding their corpses, the last sliver of good inside him disappeared, and he became a force of pure hatred. He walked through the town of Ratwater and slaughtered every single citizen. Upon emptying out the local saloon, he took a shot and was killed by a tornado. His hate did not max out there though. No way. Instead, he was damned to hell and forced to relive his family's death over and over. Each time, he also lived through his slaughter of the Ratwater populace. Soon enough, he's sprung from hell to seek out and kill Jesse Custer, and well, the rest is history. Immortal and on a bloody quest for revenge against the world, the Saint of Killers is a killing machine. I mean, you probably got that bit from his name. His guns, a pair of Colt 1847 Walkers, were gifted to him by the Angel of Death. They never run out of ammunition, they never jam, and they are omni-deadly. That means they will not miss their target, and one shot will always kill, regardless of circumstance. It's like aimbot in real life. Can't kick this guy from the lobby. The guns can penetrate a dozen walls and actually drill a hole from one end of the earth to the other. Plus, he retains them even after dying, which coincidentally is how he kills God. So now he's up in heaven ruling over paradise. And if he chose to do so, he could kill every last person on earth without breaking a sweat. And knowing the amount of hatred deep in his heart, he probably would without a second thought.
Coming in at number 5, we have the Ferryman. This is a demon who appears for a short amount of time in a movie that I didn't particularly enjoy, but he's certainly made an impact on a lot of people, that's for sure. Released in 2019 and directed by Gary Doberman, Annabelle Comes Home is the 7th installment in the Conjuring universe and the sequel to Annabelle and Annabelle Creation. Starring the likes of McKenna Grace, Madison Eisman and Katie Saariv, along with Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson, the film follows the Warrens' child Judy, who is left alone with her babysitter when her parents go to investigate a case. However, when an unexpected guest arrives, Annabelle is set free, and demonic activity spirals inside of the home. Now, we're not going to be focusing on Annabelle for this number, we're saving her for later. Instead, we'll be discussing the Ferryman. The Ferryman is one of the many antagonists in the Conjuring franchise, making his first appearance in Annabelle Comes Home. He is a dark and evil spirit who is rumored to take souls to the afterlife for a price, but instead of delivering them to the afterlife, he collects them and tortures them. The Ferryman was investigated by Ed and Lorraine Warren after the death of a girl by its hands. They conducted interviews by those affected, who told them stories of the Ferryman, who demanded a toll, or else their souls would be left. The Warrens collected coins from corpses that were cursed by the demon and had them blessed and locked away in their museum. However, in Annabelle Comes Home, this demon is woken up when the coins are tampered with, unleashing the hellish force, and he is truly terrifying to behold. Before we jump into number 4, be sure to give this video a big thumbs up, it really helps out a lot in the YouTube algorithm. Coming in at number 4, we have Bathsheba Sherman. Bathsheba Sherman was the first villain to traumatize all of us in the Conjuring universe, with her first appearing in The Conjuring. Released in 2013 and directed by James Wan, The Conjuring of course stars Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga as Ed and Lorraine Warren, paranormal investigators famous for being involved in prominent cases of hauntings, including the Amityville Horror. In the movie, the couple are contacted by the Perrons, a family who recently moved into a farmhouse and become tormented by a demonic presence inside of the home, with Ed and Lorraine Warren attempting to rid the family of the entity. Now, Bathsheba Sherman is the main antagonist of The Conjuring. She torments the family and possesses the mother Carolyn. Now, Bathsheba was a woman born in 1812 who was said to be related to a woman executed for witchcraft in Salem back in 1692. Jumping forward in time, she went on to marry a rich farmer and gave birth to a child. However, she attempted to use this child as a sacrifice to the devil, but was ultimately caught by her husband. Exposed, she climbed a tree on her property, proclaimed her love for the devil, and proceeded to curse those who would take her land, before ultimately taking her own life. Her spirit would now reside on the land and torment all those who tried to live there, aka the Perron family, who become the demon's victims before the Warrens step in to put an end to it. Coming in at number 3, we have La Llorona. Hailing from arguably the worst movie on our entire list, La Llorona is a terrifying entity that is not to be messed with. Released in 2019 and directed by Michael Chavez, The Curse of La Llorona is a supernatural horror starring the likes of Linda Cardellini, Raymond Cruz, and Patricia Velasquez, and follows a mother in 1973 who must save her children from a malevolent spirit named La Llorona and wishes to steal them. In real life, this spirit is also referred to as the Weeping Woman or the Wailer, and is a spirit who roams waterfront areas mourning her drowned children. Legend states that a beautiful woman named Maria married a rich conquistador with whom she bore 2 children. However, on one particular day she caught her husband with another woman, and in a fit of rage she drowned her children, with her suffering immediate regret. She then drowned herself but was unable to enter the afterlife, and instead was trapped in purgatory and roamed earth searching for children to steal. So of course this seemed to be the perfect supernatural story to bring into the Conjuring universe. However, it failed to make any real kind of impact, with the movie falling short. However, despite that, the character of La Llorona is still pretty damn terrifying nonetheless. But she doesn't scare me because I ain't a child. Can't snatch me. Coming in at number 2, we have Annabelle. Annabelle is perhaps the most popular and feared demon in the Conjuring universe, with her first appearing in The Conjuring before being introduced as the main antagonist in Annabelle, Annabelle Creation, and Annabelle Comes Home. Annabelle is considered to be one of the most dangerous and haunted items collected by Ed and Lorraine Warren over the years, with the demonic entity latching itself onto a porcelain doll, in the movies that is. In real life, it took hold of a Raggedy Ann doll. Now, the Annabelle demon is a powerful demonic entity who torments those who are possession of the doll, with her moving around unseen. In The Conjuring, where she first appeared, Annabelle was released by Bathsheba Sherman, who we discussed before, with Bathsheba going to the home of the Warrens as revenge for investigating her home, and releasing Annabelle. However, let's look at the doll's backstory. In the movie, Annabelle, a pregnant woman, is gifted the doll by her husband. Not long after, Annabelle Higgins and her boyfriend, members of a satanic cult, break into the home, turning the doll into a conduit for evil when Annabelle takes her own life. A demon possesses the doll, posing as the ghost of Annabelle Higgins. We quickly discover how truly powerful Annabelle is when she begins to attract spirits from a nearby graveyard as the Warrens are attempting to transport her to their home. They manage to fashion a case out of glass from a decommissioned church though, and the evil is contained. But for how long? And finally, in at number 1 we have Valak, the nun. I mean, there is no demon stronger and more terrifying than the evil Valak, who first appeared in The Conjuring 2 before being the main antagonist in the prequel movie The Nun. Released in 2018 and directed by Corin Hardy, The Nun follows a Roman Catholic priest and a nun as they uncover a dark secret in 1952 Romania. Of course, we see Bonnie Aarons reprising her role as Valak, the demon nun. As we know, in The Conjuring 2, Valak was the antagonist who tormented Lorraine Warren, showing her horrific visions of her husband's potential death, and fighting off against her at the end of the movie. Now, I won't spoil what happens there for those who haven't seen The Conjuring 2, so we'll primarily just focus on The Nun, the prequel of sorts that was really Now, in the prequel, it is revealed that the monastery was built by a duke centuries prior who became obsessed with black magic and attempted to summon a demonic force. However, before he could, he was killed by fellow members of the Vatican, and the rift was sealed with the blood of Christ. When the monastery gets bombed during World War II, the evil spirit is released and takes on the form of a nun, with the demon being revealed to be Valak, who is now walking freely around the monastery every night, killing people one by one. She is truly terrifying in her physical form as the nun, and is utterly relentless and despicable. She rarely speaks, but is wickedly smart, even tricking the Warrens in The Conjuring 2. She also teamed up with Annabelle, making for two formidable yet terrifying opponents. Coming in at 5, Boogeyman. The Boogeyman is a mythical creature used by adults to frighten children into good behavior. This demonic creature has no specific appearance, and conceptions vary drastically by household and culture, but it is commonly depicted as a masculine or androgynous monster that punishes children for misbehavior. The Boogeyman, or a somewhat related creature, can be found in every culture, and is used for scaring children into good behavior depending on what purpose needs serving, often based on a warning from the child's authority figure. The term Boogeyman is sometimes used as a non-specific personification or metonym for terror, and in some cases, the devil. While the description of the Boogeyman differs on cultural levels, there are often some shared similarities to the creatures. Many of these demonic creatures are depicted as having claws, talons, and sharp teeth. Along with that, the majority of Boogeyman are of the spirit variety, while the minority are demons, witches, and other legendary creatures. Some are even described to have certain animal features such as horns, hooves, and bug-like appearances. When examining the personality traits of the Boogeyman, they are most easily divided into 3 categories: the kind that punish misbehaved children, the kind that are more prone to violence, and the kind that protect the innocent. However, they all relate in the same way, being that they all exist to teach young children a lesson. The more vicious Boogeymen are said to steal children at night and even eat them. Sucks to be those kids. Coming in at number 3, the Malebranche. The Malebranche are the demons in the Inferno of Dante's Divine Comedy, who guard Bathsheba 5 of the 8th Circle. Vulgar and quarrelsome, their duty is to force the corrupt politicians to stay under the surface of a boiling lake of pitch. When Dante and Virgil meet them, the leader of the Malebranche, Malacoda, assigns a troop to escort the poets safely to the next bridge. Many of the bridges were destroyed in the earthquakes that happened at the death of Christ, which Malacoda describes enabling the time this takes place to be calculated. The troop hook and torment one of the Barretters, identified by early commentators as Ciampolo, who names some Italian grafters and then tricks the Malebranche in order to escape back into the pitch. The demons are dishonest and malicious. The promise of safe conduct the poets have received turns out to have limited value, and there is no next bridge, so that Dante and Virgil are forced to escape from them. Coming in at number 2, Mundus. Mundus, also known as the Prince of Darkness, is a devil prince from Devil May Cry who ruled the demon world 2,000 years ago, overthrowing the previous rule of the demon world and threatening the human world. Sometime after conquering the devil's throne, Mundus' rule was challenged by the demon god Argosax, and a great war followed that divided the underworld into two sides. Upon trying to take over the human world, the demon swordsman Sparda rebelled and defeated him and his enemies, sealing him away in a vault on Mallet Island. To quote Tomio Otsubu, "Visually he looks like a god. He purposely makes himself look godlike, so we took that to heart by making his silhouette godly and majestic." The crumbling second form is meant to show how pitiful he really is in contrast with the majesty of that first form. Mundus' appearance when he battles Dante is that of a gigantic living statue of an aging muscular bearded man with enormous feathered wings, resembling figures such as Zeus or even God. During his final battle with Dante, portions of the statue began to break away, revealing a grotesque writhing mass of living tissue, with 3 eyeballs and hundreds of hands coming out of it. In the game he is depicted as the epitome of evil. He has no compassion for his minions and acts without regard to their loyalty, killing one of his own generals, Griffin, after the latter failed to defeat Dante. His powers include supernatural strength, supernatural durability, demonic energy, manipulation, and flight. He also is capable of demon creation, mind manipulation, power augmentation, as well as orb summoning. And finally, coming in at number 1, Paimon. King Paimon is a spirit named in the Lesser Key of Solomon and appears as the 9th spirit in the Gosha, the 22nd spirit in the Pseudo-Monarchia Daemonem, and the Dictionary Infernal. The Gosha, Weah, and Duplancy warn that if King Paimon appears alone, a sacrifice must be made to summon Babel and Abalam, 2 kings who serve under him but do not always accompany him. These 3 sources also state that he rules 200 legions of spirits, some of which are of the order of angels and the rest powers. In the Gosha, Weah, Duplancy, and Sloan MS-3824, he is described as a man riding a dromedary camel, preceded by men playing loud music, usually trumpets. Sloan MS-3824 describes the camel as crowned, while the rest describe King Paimon himself as crowned. The Gosha and Weah both describe him as teaching science and answering all questions, specifying that his knowledge includes all arts and secret things such as knowledge regarding the earth, its waters, and the winds. The Gosha and the Weah also claim that he has the ability to bestow dignities and lordships, as well as credit him with granting familiars. In Abramelin, King Paimon's powers include knowledge of past and future events, clearing up doubts, making spirits appear, creating visions, acquiring and dismissing servant spirits, reanimating the dead for several years, flight, remaining underwater indefinitely, and general abilities to make all kinds of things and all sorts of people and armor appear at the behest of his magician. Well,